Opinions expressed by the guests and contributors on Conklin Company are not necessarily those of 13ABC. Now, Conklin Company continues with Take 3, commentary and analysis from our panel of political contributors.
Welcome back, everyone. Take 3 now with Ignacio Messina from the Toledo Blade. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me back, Lee.
You know, we focus so much on the presidential election and senatorial elections, the election. Over the last couple of months, but it's time to talk Toledo city politics. And
Sure.
There's a lot going on as it pertains to the economy. Mayor Bell drops off the budget on the day that he heads to China, correct?
The day before.
The day before.
He actually dropped it off early. It's due on the 15th, which I think was Thursday, and so he dropped it off a couple days early. The finance director warned, you talked about the fiscal cliff nationally. The city has its own fiscal cliff. It's getting less and less money from the state every year. So it's been taking more and more money out of street repair, the street repair fund, and putting it into general fund to pay for things like cops and firefighters and their salaries.
So you're moving money around, but you're balancing the budget, though.
It's balanced. I mean, by law, they have to have a balanced budget every year. So they fixed it. And Mayor Bell said, he said he kind of patted the city on the back. We've done something incredible. 3 years ago, we had this $48 million deficit, as he called it.
Couldn't get a police class.
Couldn't do a police class,
right?
no. And the deputy mayor, Steve Herrera, pointed out to me just the other day that I think in the 4 years of Bell's administration, they will have hired more than 150 firefighters. And in the previous 7 years, they had hired 15 firefighters. Well, I mean, that's a product of the economy. The mayor of Toledo doesn't affect the national economy. He doesn't affect the housing crash that happened. So, the economy's on an upswing now, and obviously the city's taking advantage of that.
We hope that continues. As we've addressed earlier on in the show, we'll see what happens. And if we had $1 for every time fiscal cliff was mentioned, that probably would help go toward cutting the deficit.
Yeah, it's the new buzz phrase.
Yes, it sure is. It sure is. Okay, so the mayor goes to China. Fourth trip there?
This is his fourth trip. He's been to China 4 times now, Japan once, India once, and I believe he's going to Germany in the spring. And maybe you and I can take that trip, because we were both in China with him. He's been over there talking to investors. It's been they're in Shenzhen, which is a big commerce city near Hong Kong, and
some of these investors, Ignacio, were here back in September, right?
Their first day.
For the big Five Lakes Global Conference.
The mayor's first day in China, after I think they arrived late the first night, and then the next day they spent most of the day interviewing or talking with investors who were here. And I spoke to him by telephone. He had been out all day, and he said most of them were very happy with Toledo. They were impressed with it, and they had visited bigger cities after they came here, and they were just
like Toledo better.
Sure, they like Toledo better than Chicago or New York because there's no crowds and traffic and things here.
Get everywhere in 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure, exactly. So they were really impressed, and plus I think part of that is land here is a lot cheaper than you can pay for in Chicago or New York.
Speaking of land, we still have the Marina District on the east side of the river, bought by Dashing Pacific.
Every time I do a story about Mayor Bell and him going to China or talking to Chinese investors, well, when is he coming back with a signed deal? There were rumors of a metal manufacturing company that was going to open up somewhere in the city of Toledo. It was in The Economist magazine. We haven't seen any evidence of that yet. So far, nothing real has happened at the Marina District. I mean, they've done some little land work. Of course, the city helped with the moving of the Schoonamaker, the Schoonamaker boat, north of where Dashing Pacific owns. But as of yet, no, there hasn't been anything.
Dashing had commissioned Rudolph Libby and also this Canadian firm about a year ago, right?
As an architect company to do a market study.
And go get some tenants.
Sure.
So we're still waiting to hear something on those tenants.
But then you look back, I mean, that land was sat there for more than a decade with nothing on it. So, is another year or two all that much more in the grand scheme of it?
Well, the city still has the option to get it back, right?
They have the option to buy it back. But a lot of people say, well, will the city have the money to buy it back? Well, where would they take that money out of the street repair fund?
We'll see. But then you have the docks and the Admirals. This one restaurant sells for auction. It is not what the bistro was. And we'll see what happens with the folks who bought that. So there's still some uncertainty over there.
Sure, absolutely.
Even though it was purchased, and Dashing paid for the money. Then another group bought the Park Inn, correct?
Yes. Another group that we don't really know a lot about, but we know that it's Chinese investors, bought the Park Inn Hotel. So they have that, the Marina District, and the docks, and there may be something other. Some economic development people in the city tell us there have been other deals that we don't know about, because some Chinese investors like to do things quietly, as well as some American businessmen like to do things quietly. They like to stay off your show or out of the newspaper.
Out of the fanfare, right.
Sure,
right.
absolutely.
Okay, so you had all the negativity around the presidential campaign, China. Almost in every ad. I'm going to get tough on China, crack down on the cheaters, let's tighten the trade restrictions.
I think the day before the election, or 2 days before the election, I sat down with Mayor Bell and he said, you know what? That doesn't bother me. I don't listen to the rhetoric. That is for the president and for Mr. Romney to deal with. His mode, his desire was to just bring jobs back to America. And he said, if we move jobs from Fort Wayne or from Chicago or something, that doesn't really help our country. So he believes that with foreign direct investment, he can really help revitalize Toledo.
Well, one thing that the mayor is pretty steadfast. He's kind of oblivious to criticism. He'll do what he wants to do, correct?
I don't know if I'd call him oblivious.
Not oblivious. He's aware of it.
He's aware of it.
He'll do it his way.
In covering him now for 3 years, I've noticed that he doesn't care about the criticism. He's going to do it his way, and that's not to say his aides don't know about it. They may be bothered by it, but I think that he is definitely his own mayor.
No question. So then you have other people on council. As Phil Copeland moves into the recorder's office, who are watching this, we've heard about names for who might want to run against Mayor Bell.
This vacancy on council is not a whole lot different than other vacancies. Like when Steve Steele was appointed to council from the school board, it was kind of just apparent he was going to be appointed to that board.
So Jack Ford, is this a done deal?
Well, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. I know there are 2 other people at least interested: Lisa Sebecki, who was on the school board, and Sean Enright, who ran for council and lost against Mike Craig, but did very well at the polls. I think he got 45% of the vote. But if I
There's going to be screening, right?
The Democratic Party has put out for a request for screening for people. I'm sure the Republican Party will put someone up. But as you know, the majority on council are Democrats. So if a Republican makes it onto council, I don't know, there might be a snowball in hell at that point. Right. But it'll most likely will be a Democrat. And who it is, I know there are a lot of theories as to why Jack Ford might want to be on council. He was already on council, then he was a state legislature, then he was, as you know, the mayor. Then he was out of office for a while and was appointed to the school board. And I covered him when he ran for the school board. I'm sorry, he got on the school board.
And a writer now, columnist for the Sojourner's Truth newspaper. Fletcher, we're the publisher there. That's 8 minutes, Ignacio.
Are we done?
We are done.
Okay.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thanks a lot, Lee.
Thanks much, everybody. Have a great Sunday. Have a tremendous